Okay, well, follow along on the agenda here. We're going to jump into the topics of today. And what I'm going to do in this first section as we go through the agenda is really highlight some macro trends that I just wanted to talk through with you guys before we actually get into my presentation. And then when we get into the presentation, I'm going to take a time out for a second. We're going to talk about some high-level go-to-market planning things that you need to be thinking about. And then we're going to break down some specific trends and use our demand gen framework as a way to kind of think through that and organize that. And so as we look at the agenda, there's four things that are kind of just, like I said, macro trends that I wanted to highlight for us. And the first one is we obviously need to focus on today, but we also need to focus on tomorrow. You know, there's many times when I'm working with B2B companies and they're thinking about their go-to-market, they get really, really caught up in what can we do now to generate leads now, and that's important. And I think next year we're going to face some headwinds just like we did this year. And so we need to be smart about the things that we're going to be focusing on as marketers that are going to generate some immediate value. But at the same time, I don't want us to lose sight on the fact that even in years when we're facing some pretty big headwinds, a big part of what go-to-market or B2B marketing rather is all about is making sure that when our buyer goes from a future buyer to a now buyer and they prioritize the thing that we do or the problem that we can solve for them, and they're ready to take some initiative on that, we want to be one of the vendors that they think about. And so even as we look at 2024, if we have some big headwinds in 24, there's some things we can do with our marketing to make sure that when budgets loosen up later on in 24 or maybe even in 25, that we've laid the groundwork, that they think of us as one of those preferred vendors that can help them. In fact, Harvard Business Review did a really interesting study about this time last year. I think they interviewed like 1,000 B2B marketers or buyers, if you will, rather, and they learned two really important things. And this is why it's important to lay a good foundation for the future. Is that these B2B buyers, before they go in market, and they prioritize something and they say, yeah, we're going to take action on it, and they start researching solutions and vendors to help them. Before that happens, they already have in mind 3 to 5 vendors who they think can help them. And those 3 to 5 vendors, got filed away in their mind because of passive learning or connecting with peers or whatever that's made them aware of those vendors and the problems that those vendors solve. And so that's why demand generation marketing is so important. And I think we all know that. So the key point is, before they start researching, they already have 3 to 5 vendors in mind. But the fascinating thing about this study was that on the other end of the process, when they're ready to buy, these B2B buyers would buy from one of those 3 to 5 vendors 90% of the time. And that's really important to understand. So what that means is they had 3 to 5 vendors in mind at the beginning of the process. And then now at the end of the process, 6 months later, or a year later, however long it takes for them to make that decision, they ended up buying from one of those vendors that was on their mental short list. And so the problem with focusing on just today is that if we're not on that mental short list, we literally have a 1 in 10 chance of winning that business. And so it's really critical as we're thinking about 24, because I do think we are going to face some headwinds and continue to face headwinds, that we are laying that foundation so at least we can get that mental mind share when their wallets start opening back up. So when we think about what can we do right now, hey, I've got to make my number in 2024. One of the first things I like to recommend to B2B marketers is, look at your website. What can you do to improve the user experience on your website? What can you do to remove friction on your website? Look at your navigation, look at your conversion forms, and ask yourself the question, what am I doing to really make my website a buyer enablement resource rather than a online brochure? And I hate to be as blunt as that, but man, if we can improve our conversion rates by just a percentage, then 1 percentage point rather, then we're going to generate more leads with the traffic that's already coming to our website today. So if you're looking for some quick wins and some strategies that are going to help you in 24, think about your website and how can you improve the messaging, making sure that your website is answering the questions that your customer is really looking for you to answer for them, and what can you do to improve the conversions on your landing pages. And I think you'll be really happy with that. Another thing to be thinking about in 24 in terms of generating more leads leads and value now would be taking your best content and making sure that you're promoting that content in channels where your customers go to learn. A big challenge that I see B2B struggle with today is they do believe that their website is the place where everything needs to live, right? I'm going to build this piece of content. I'm going to create this really cool tool or this resource for my buyer. I'm going to put it on my website, and then I'm going to wait for them to come to my website, or I'm going to put it behind a gate and wait for them to come to my website and then make them fill out a form before I give them the value. And that's just not going to cut it in 24. And so my recommendation to you is think about, how can we get a distribution strategy that's going to get our great information out there on channels where our buyers go to learn. We also need to figure out how to win the mid-funnel. So if you're wanting to figure out what are some now tactics that are going to help us grow our businesses in 24, winning the mid-funnel is going to be really critical. And, one of the challenges that I see B2B struggle with today is, that tension between I want to gate this piece of information so that I can generate a marketing qualified lead, so that I can prove that my marketing is working, with, buyer enablement, which would say, buyers don't want to fill out forms to get your information. They don't need to fill out forms to get to that information. They can find it somewhere else. And so how do we win the mid-funnel? And I'm going to give you some ideas and things to think about a little bit later on, but it's really critical that as you're building out your strategy, you think about that middle of the funnel, because top of the funnel is pretty easy. We can boost content to the right audience. That's going to grow our top of the funnel. Bottom of the funnel, I think all of us are pretty good at that. So what are we going to do to win the mid funnel if we're not collecting email addresses in the middle of the funnel? And then the last thing I just want to touch on before I move to the next agenda topic is really retention. I can't tell you how important, when you're facing headwinds in an economy, spending some marketing cycles focused on retaining your existing customers and growing your existing customers will pay huge dividends for you. So I'll just give you in just complete transparency, at Vindy Digital, we had some big goals this year in new client acquisition, and we ended up hitting about 60-70% of our goal. And that was after we kind of expected, we knew that we were going to face some headwinds. And so, we cut the number of new clients that we expected we had a great 2022. We knew that 23 wouldn't be as good, so we pulled back on our forecast. And still, we only hit like 65% of our new client acquisition goal. But we still hit our annual revenue goal, our annual targets, because we did also focus on strategies to retain our clients and strategies to grow our clients. And as a result of that, we were able to hold on to more clients than we expected and grow the clients that we had. And so as you think about 24, just ask yourself the question, what are we doing to really retain our customers? What are we doing to show them that we appreciate them? And what are we doing to kind of expand our relationship within those accounts? I think that's going to help you a lot, especially if we focus on or expect some headwinds next year. Moving on to the next topic here on the agenda, and I've done 2 whole sessions on AI, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time here, but I do encourage everybody here to be thinking about how are you going to AI enable your marketing in 2024. I've got down at the bottom links to resources. You can watch those webinars if you're interested. We also have some great AI resources that we've made available for you guys. Be sure to check those out. But man, next year, I promise you, I know that everybody that's on the session today is probably played with ChatGPT or Claude. But in 2024, I think you're really going to have to figure out, how do you get organized around AI? How do you get collaboration going with AI? What tools are you going to pick? The one thing about ChatGPT is it's very, it's very powerful. It's a wonderful tool, but it's impossible to collaborate on. So how are you going to start inviting AI to your workflows and automate things? And so be thinking about that. And again, I've got some great resources down here at the bottom. If you look down below, you'll see there's the AI enablement webcast that we did back in October, along with a playbook and a toolkit that I think you guys will find really helpful in just enabling AI. One thing I forgot to touch on, I'm looking at it in my resources right now. We just updated our website UX checklist. which is a tool that we update every year. It's brand new. It's on our website, but you can also link to, there's a link on our agenda. And that's a great tool to help you just think through, how do I improve the user experience on my website? Definitely something to be taken advantage of in 24, as we've already talked about. Okay, moving on to the next agenda topic here. And this is a good close cousin to AI, in that information is really going to become a commodity in 24. It already is starting to happen, right? AI is getting invited to everything, as we just talked about. And I don't know about you guys, but man, I can spot AI written blogs and AI written social media content and AI written comments to people's posts on LinkedIn a mile away. Well, the problem is, I think we're just going to get more and more of that next year. And in my mind, that's also an opportunity for us, right? And so my encouragement to you guys is just realize that we're going to get an avalanche of commodity content. And so when in the world of commodity content, we've got to figure out, how are we going to stand out? How is our brand going to look different? And so some of the things that you can think about are, number one, if everybody's cranking out content, then I think distribution becomes really, really important. So a lot of people, and I can promise you, because I talk to B2B marketers all day, every day, they still think their website is the place where all their content needs to live. So if you're looking for a way to win in this information avalanche era, figure out, how are you going to better out distribute your competition. And I can't encourage you enough to think about LinkedIn as a way to do that, but also look at other channels where your audience is hanging out, where they're passively learning. We're going to be investigating Reddit and other channels next year as well, as a way to get that information out there. So the point is, when everything is a commodity, look for new places to get in front of your customers first. That's one thing to think about. Number two, double down in education as marketing. I've been doing digital marketing for 23 years. I can tell you, my strategy pretty much has been the same for 23 years. You guys are experiencing part of it right now, and that is train, train, train. Help you figure out what your audience needs, the information that is helpful to them, that you know about, that you are a subject matter expert, and use that as your marketing message. When you educate your buyer and you help them have a better career, and you help them improve their businesses and grow their businesses, that's always a great way to market your business. And tied to that, if you look down at the next bullet, more value, less clickbait. Man, I can't tell you how important that is right now. And we've been guilty of this in the past as well over at Vindy. Is, we would write a blog for a client, let's say, or a blog for ourselves. And then we would go and build a social media post for LinkedIn that would be kind of a, hey, here's a teaser about the blog. Click this link to go to our website and read the blog. And that's what I mean by clickbait. I think in 2024, if you're going to be successful, you really need to focus on this concept of zero-click content. And the idea is that you're going to deliver the value in the feed. When you think about our buyers and their behavior, when they go to social channels like LinkedIn, they're really not looking to go to your website. They're wanting to stay on platform. And so as we're looking at how do we win in this information avalanche world, it's really, how can we deliver more value in the feed? And so more value, less clickbait. Next, we want to really make sure that we're doing a good job telling a very compelling, unique story. And so, one thing that I found works really well is making sure you understand your positioning, and how your point of view is different than your competition, and how can you validate and prove that. Andrea and I were just talking about that in the green room before we started today. It's like, one of the things we love about these demand gen jam sessions that we do is it feeds our content marketing flywheel. It gives us an opportunity to share unique points of view on how we think about digital marketing. And that's something that an AI robot can't copy, right? I mean, that it's our perspective, it's our point of view. It's not something that's going to be easily copied. So, really hone in. I'm going to give you some things to think about when we get to the presentation here in a minute. But how do you look at the world differently than your competition? What are the things you want to be known for? That becomes your content strategy, if you will. But then what is your point of view for each of those things that you want to be known for? That's really important. And then what is your differentiated value? So, if your competition is going to go make a decision to do nothing, or make a decision to go with one of your competitors, or make a decision to go with you, or your company, what are the reasons that they would do that over your competition or over doing nothing or doing it in-house? Really get that stuff figured out, because that's going to help you stand out in this world of information avalanche. And then the last thing is just be more creative. Um, uh, Become like a journalist. Go out there and figure out, how's a unique way that I can tell this story. What's a unique angle? I would tell you that the days of how-to content is probably coming quickly to an end, because how-to content is super easy to generate with AI today, right? Write me a blog on how to do demand generation in 10 steps. So that's not going to work anymore. So what we need to do is more of a how we content. This is how we generate demand, or this is how we generated demand for one of our customers. So find new interesting angles that you can use to build your content. And I think that's a good way to combat this information avalanche that I know that we're all going to face next year. And then the last kind of general trend that we're seeing, and this has been a trend for a long time, but I think we're going to see an explosion of it next year, and that is just short form video. And I would tell you, vertical video versus horizontal video. TikTok has proven that people like really short vertical videos, and you're starting to see them show up in LinkedIn and other channels and YouTube shorts and all those things. And so I'm a huge fan of long form video. I'm not here to say don't do long form video. In fact, this very episode of the Demand Gen Jam session will become a YouTube video. But what I am saying is, you need to think about, how can you create short form vertical videos in 2024 that tell your story. And I think follow everything that we just described in the information section: your unique angle, your point of view, things that are going to be useful for your audience, zero click, where they're going to be able to watch that 2-minute video or 3-minute video or whatever and get some useful information, something actionable that will be really helpful to your audience. But if you're not thinking about video, man, I'm telling you, 2024 is the time to be thinking about it. And TikTok has really validated that people like to consume content that way. One thing I've been saying literally for 10 or 15 years is, people would rather watch the internet than read the internet. And that's why I've been such a fan of video for so long. But now I think it's, people would rather watch a 2-minute video than read a 1,000-word blog, right? So let's think about, how can we get our content in these nice little video vignettes. I think you'll be happy with that. Okay, I just fire hosed you guys with 4 trends that I think are kind of macro, that are going to be a big deal in 24. What I want to do now is actually jump over to a slide presentation that I've put together for you. I will share my screen here. There is a link to the PDF version. By the way, all of these slides, anything we ever share at Vindy Digital, you have our permission to reuse however you like. And so if you need a PowerPoint version of this or a Google Slides version, just ping me and I'll be happy to make that available to you. But you've got the PDF version there in the agenda, and I'm about to share it on my screen. And we got 30 minutes. Okay. And I've got like 29 slides. Fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. Andrea, can you see my screen okay?
Yep, all looks good, Paul.
All right, great. I don't know if you guys follow Devin Reed. He's awesome, a great guy to follow on LinkedIn. But we're going to talk a little bit about strategy right now. And he had this post a couple of weeks ago, and I knew we were going to be doing this episode, so I grabbed it. I thought it was really very true, right? Strategy is the what and the why. Tactics are the how. And all of us that are B2B marketers that really are responsible for marketing, master one and you're valuable, but master both and you become irreplaceable. And so getting marketing strategy down and being able to create predictable outcomes is a huge, huge value add. And so if you're looking to have a great career in marketing, these things we're going to talk through, I think, will really help you a lot. And so I'm going to just walk us through kind of a basic, again, I got a lot to cover today, so I wasn't able to go through this as much as I did last year. If you're interested in a deeper dive on this, go check out the November 2022 episode in season 1 of the Demand Gen Jam session. You can get a deeper dive. And I've got a link to that in the agenda. So this is, like, to me, one of the most simple things in the world when it comes to building a marketing strategy. But I talk to B2B marketing leaders all the time, and they forget this all the time, right? And that is that the first place we need to go when we're building a marketing strategy for our businesses is to go talk to the CEO, go talk to the leadership, and find out what the heck we're trying to do as a business. Like, what hills are we trying to go conquer in 2024? And then our job as digital marketers or B2B marketers really is to go connect marketing activities to achieve those overarching objectives. And so, the boss may say, hey, we're going to take that hill next year. And then we've got to decide, are we going to climb up that hill? Are we going to, take a helicopter and fly to the top of the hill and drop down? How are we going to take that hill? And what is the marketing that's going to help us get there? And so if we don't start with what the business is trying to do, we're going to end up spinning our wheels. And that's one thing I see B2B struggle with all the time is they've got so many plates spinning that they're never really getting good at one plate. And that's because they don't know what plates are the right plates. And if you start with what is the business trying to do and where are we trying to grow as a business and then build your marketing strategy to achieve those goals, then you're going to be in a much better place. Once you understand kind of what the objectives are of the business or what are the big goals of the business, then you can work backwards and try to figure out what are the things that are going to really impact the business. And I've got just a quick example here, but the key point is once you understand the goals, the question that we like to ask at Vendy Digital is, what are the drivers of those goals? So if our goal is, we need to generate 10 new clients next year, or 12 new clients next year, or hit this revenue number, the first question we should ask ourselves is, what are the drivers that are going to cause us to hit those numbers? That's what I mean by drivers. And then from there, you can peel back the onion and go, well, what are the things that influence those drivers? And then, once you understand what's influencing the driver, then you can ask what's influencing that influencer and just work backwards. And that's a great exercise to have with leadership and to even have with sales as you're thinking about building out this strategy. So before you even start putting pen to paper, understand what are the big goals for the business and then what are the drivers to get you there and then what are the influencers of those drivers, and you'll have a good foundation for figuring out specifically what is my go-to-market. Now, I'm going to not walk you through this entire 10-step process, but I just wanted to share it with you because, when you're building out a strategy, I'm going to highlight a few of these. It's key that we understand our goals, and then we understand what are the objectives that are how we're going to achieve that goal. That's that concept of, are we going to climb the hill? Are we going to buy a helicopter and fly to the top of the hill? We need to figure that out. Then we need to assess, take a look back at last year. And I mean, Ryan Miller and I just did this for us. We actually went back and looked at the last 3 years at Vendy Digital Marketing and just, said, what's working? What worked really, really well? What didn't work? Then we asked the question number 4 there, what's missing? Like what else should we be doing that we're not doing today? Another thing that we need to do, and man, I'm telling you, number 5 is a huge miss. So I would just encourage you to take a look at your calendar, look at the trade shows you're going to be doing next year, look at any product launches that are coming down the pike next year, any big announcements, because, we're on the agency side of the business, and I can't tell you how many times we're in a fire drill with a client because they forgot about this event that they're going to be at. It's a huge event and they need to activate for this event. And now all of a sudden we're dropping everything, fire drill. Let's get ready to promote this event that we should have thought about 3 months ago or 6 weeks ago. And I'm just encouraging you, when you're always in a fire drill, and I think we all know what that feels like, nothing ever gets done very well. So if you can at least plan for these big events that are going to happen throughout the year, you're going to be in better shape. Number 6, build a content strategy around, 3 to 5 content pillars. And we did a great couple of sessions earlier this year on how to build an effective content marketing strategy for your business. That was the February and March the Demand Gen Jam session episodes. So if you want a deep dive on that, go check out the February and March episodes. But the key is, ask yourself the question, what do we want to be known for? What do we want people to know about us? What categories, when they're filing us away in that mental filing cabinet that I was talking about earlier, what do we want them What do we want them to remember about us? And that's really will formulate your content pillars. And then the next thing you want to do is build out some messaging around those content pillars. And one of the easiest ways to kind of build out your strategy is to ask yourself these two questions. What do we want our target audience to know about us as it relates to those content pillars? So in the step above, we figured out what the content pillars are. Now we're asking ourselves the question, what do we want our audience to know about us as it relates to that? And that's where we can get into our point of view and really, what's broken in their business, how to fix it, those kinds of things. The other question that we want to ask, though, is not only what is it that we want them to know about this particular content pillar, but now that they know this thing, what do we want them to do? Because part of good B2B marketing is creating momentum for our buyers. And so what we want to do is, hey, we want you to know this thing, but once you know this thing, we want you to go and do this other thing because we want to create momentum for you. And when I'm saying, what do we want you to do next, I'm not saying talk to sales. That is ultimately what we want them to do. But there's momentum steps that need to happen in between them learning something about us and the problem that we solve and them talking to sales. And so it's important that you kind of think about that buyer journey and sell each of the next stages of that buyer journey and get that documented. Number 8, understand and identify what your KPIs are, and they need to be measurable. Pass fail type KPIs are going to show that you're heading in the right direction, and they need to get documented. And then you're able to pick the tactics that you're going to use to build out your strategy and then ultimately build out your campaigns to accomplish that. We've got this template that I just wanted to share with you. We call this the one-page marketing plan. The stuff that I just walked you through, those 10 steps, you would bore your CEO to death if you tried to explain all that stuff to them. And so what we encourage you to do is try to condense that down into one page. And so this is how it kind of lays out. The next slide is just walking you through what one would look like filled out. So the idea is at the top, you've got your goal. Your big goal, right? So maybe it's 10 new clients in 2024. And then underneath that, you've got, 3 pillar objectives. You could have 4, you could have 5, probably. I wouldn't go more than that. And so how are you going to do that? What are the things that you're going to do to achieve those goals? And then underneath that, what are 3 to 5 tactics that you're going to deploy to achieve those goals? That's the kind of information that your boss is really looking for when you're managing up, that shows them, hey, we've connected the dots between the big goal of the business and these objectives that are going to help us achieve that goal, and then these tactics that are going to help us achieve those objectives. And this is an incredibly effective way, especially when you've got a CEO that doesn't get marketing, to really communicate, hey, we're on this and we've got a plan. So feel free to use that on your own. And like I said, if you want this as a PowerPoint version or a slides version, I can happily give that to you. Okay, this next slide here, I am not going to cover this in the same detail that I did on the previous list of 10 things. But these are like, when I was getting ready for today's meeting, I just asked myself the question, what are the things that I hear or see every time I have a chance to talk to a business about building a good strategy or levers that we can pull that can make a difference for them in the following year. And these are kind of this is like my top 10 list. So again, I'm not going to cover each one of these, and I'm not saying that every one of the companies that I talk to needs help in all 10 of these areas, but I am telling you, if you're looking for some low-hanging fruit, my guess is it might be some of these areas like messaging or improving your website UX, which we've already talked about, getting your SEO cleaned up. And I do have some slides on that a little bit later on. But the bottom one is a big one. I probably should have put this on when we were in the agenda section, but getting your CEO active in social media and getting your sales reps active and getting subject matter experts active in social media could be a huge win for you in 24. I'm very active in LinkedIn as the founder of Indie Digital, and about 40% of our new business comes directly from my efforts on LinkedIn, where literally people will just DM me and say they're ready to get started. So if you're not leveraging key people in your company to be active in social channels like LinkedIn, I think you're really missing out. Okay, so I'm going to move into some digital trends And we're going to do this a little bit. I gave you some macro ones on the agenda, but what I'm going to do now is break it down into specific trends based on our demand gen framework. If you've been to any of our demand gen jam sessions before, I'm sure you've seen this because I use this a lot. But this is our framework that we use to build demand generation strategies, if you will, for our clients. And so, what I thought would be helpful is just to kind of look at what are trends for each one of these pillars in 24. So let's go ahead and dig in. I've got a slide or a few slides for each of these pillars, from planning to activate your audience. I'm sorry, not planning. We just covered that, but activate your audience, establish authority, and nurture relationships. There's definitely things that we can do in 24 to help with every one of those. As you're building out your strategy, another great exercise to do, and I challenge my account managers at Vindy Digital all the time about this, and that is, how can we get better at these things? How can we get better at planning? How can we get better at activating our customer's audience or our client's audience? How can we get better at establishing authority for them and showing that they really are able to solve their customers' problems? And how can we get better at nurturing relationships? And so even as you're thinking about your strategy, that would be a good exercise to go through. Okay, so when we're talking about activate your audience, what channels should marketing use to create awareness, drive traffic, and grow leads? That's really what we're talking about here. And there's 5 things I wanted to touch on that might be really good trends to think about. One is podcast guesting. You're hearing a lot of people talk about, hey, you need to start a podcast, and podcasts are the new blog. And I do believe that. I think podcasts are huge. There's, so many of us are listening to podcasts all the time now, and it's a great way to learn and stay up to date on things. But a good baby step would be podcast guesting. And there's a lot of great podcasts that are out there today. And so what can you do to get your subject matter experts actually on podcasts so that you could draft off the audience that's already been built by that influencer that is the podcast host? So think about that as a possible baby step in getting into podcasting next year. Serializing events is a big one. I've got some slides on that. Building a content marketing flywheel, running always on campaigns versus running a point campaign that's got a start and a finish, and I'll explain that. And then really focusing on EAT with our SEO, and I've got some slides on that. So let's jump into serialized events. We've been doing this event or this Demand Gen Jam session series for 2 years now, and I can tell you it's been one of the best things that we've done for our business. And so prior to starting the Demand Gen Jam session, what we were doing is, I wouldn't say haphazardly, but just a few times a year, we would do a webinar, or maybe we would do a lunch and learn type event. And that worked. We got people to come to it, and we would generate new clients out of it. But what we found is that by serializing this event and creating something that's going to happen, the same time every month, that's got a similar format, that's enabled us to build a community, and it's enabled us to really establish authority and trust with a subset of potential customers. And so it also helps us in so many ways, as you can see here on the list. One of them is feeding our content flywheel. It helps with SEO. It just does a lot of good things. And so a lot of people think poorly about webinars. And when you think about it, this really is just a webinar. It's just serialized. But what happens is when you do a webinar, it kind of has a salesy feel to it, or people kind of come in with the bias of maybe you're there to try to sell them something. But when you come to one of these Demand Gen Jam sessions, or if you do something like this to stay connected with your customers, they quickly learn that you're not trying to sell them anything. You're just trying to help them. And that's really, really helpful in establishing community and winning the mid funnel. If you remember earlier in the presentation or the talk today, I mentioned that it's critical that we win the mid funnel, and we have strategies for how do we win the mid funnel. If we're not going to gate everything anymore, we've still got to figure out how do we stay connected to our audience when they're not ready to talk to sales, but they are trying to figure out how to solve problems that we can solve for them. And serialized events, we found, has been highly effective. And so, I think YouTube is going to be more important for B2B next year. And another great thing about, running these serialized events is you can build out a playlist on YouTube, and that really helps with SEO, YouTube SEO as well. The other thing that I was going to talk about is just this content flywheel concept. And again, we did some great sessions earlier this year on building a content marketing strategy. The key point of this slide is that when we're building out content and we're trying to distribute our content in channels where our buyers go to learn, it really needs to start with a messaging playbook and understanding the problems that our customers are having and how we can solve them, building foundational content around those content pillars, and then atomizing that content, which just simply means repurposing that content in channel appropriate ways and making sure that we're distributing it out there where they're spending time online. And so one of the things that we see all the time with that B2B struggle with is they'll have a blog strategy or a content marketing strategy, and it has no connection to like social or their social strategy. And we believe they're all part of the same unified communication strategy. And when they all are singing out of the same hymn book, so to speak, you end up having much more success in helping your audience understand what it is that you are all about and how you can help them. This is just an example of what our content flywheel looks like. And so you can see like a big part of our content flywheel strategy are these sessions. We'll have an event like this, then we slice it up, we build resources out of it. We take clips of the videos, we use them in social media, and then we build a playlist on YouTube, and we get all kinds of value, and just actually more content than we can even manage in many ways, taking this approach. And the great thing about it is it's all unified. It's not haphazard. Every one of our topics is hand selected based on what we know our audience cares about. So it helps us stay incredibly relevant for our customers, and it helps us keep good information in front of them. Okay, the next thing as we're thinking about activating our audience here is making sure that we're running always on campaigns. And I don't have time today to walk through this entire slide. Happy to talk to you one-on-one, or we can talk about it in the Demand Gen Jammers community on LinkedIn. The key point here is that we don't want to think about our paid strategy as a flight where we're going to run a campaign, we're trying to promote this thing, we're trying to generate leads for this particular service. And so we're going to build a campaign brief and we're going to turn on a campaign and then it's going to run and be done. What we need to be thinking about is moving and creating momentum for our buyer by moving them through a funnel. And sir, absolutely, you can have quarterly initiatives, but the idea is in order for us to maintain or to gain that mental real estate that we're looking to have with our buyers, we've got to be always in their face. We've got to surround them with our brand, but we can't surround them with offers. We need to surround them with information that's highly useful and relevant to them, and then graduate them from one type of information to the next based on their engagement. So if you see over there on the right, you see we've got this engagement bucket here, and this is how they're just graduating from maybe the future buyer bucket to the problem aware bucket to the end market bucket. And we're using engagement as a way to determine where they are. And then we're delivering different messages to them based on the information and the signals that they're throwing off to us. And so when you're thinking about planning for 2024, build a strategy that has you in market throughout the entire year and that you're constantly communicating different messages at different stages of the buyer journey. One thing that we've had super success with as we're talking about activating your audience and being always on, this is a great top of the funnel strategy, and that's taking advantage of these new thought leader ads that LinkedIn released last year, actually earlier this year. And so they are highly, highly effective. And the reason that they're effective is what these thought leadership ads allow you to do is the brand can take a post from one of your subject matter experts and then promote it to a target audience. And so why that's so huge is at the end of the day, people do business with people. We all know that. But what's really cool is, I've got 20,000 or so followers on LinkedIn, and that's great. But Vindy can come in and promote a post like this one, this example I'm showing you here, and we can reach a cold audience, somebody that's not connected to me, that is in our target ICP demographic that we're trying to reach, and get that same message in front of them. And so in this example, we took a post that was already doing well that I shared organically on my LinkedIn profile, and we just amplified it using thought leadership ads inside of the LinkedIn, as a LinkedIn ad campaign. And we got tremendous value out of it. This particular ad generated lots of leads, and we actually closed a client, I think, within like 60 to 90 days of this ad being out there. So definitely think about how to take advantage of thought leadership ads in 2024. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about, again, we're still on activate your audience. Search engine optimization is still really important, but it's going to take on a whole new emphasis on, because of AI primarily, and just the impact AI is having with commodity content and this information avalanche I was talking about earlier. You need to focus on EAT, and this is an acronym that Google's had out there for a while that stands for experience, expertise, authority, and trust. And so as you're developing content that you want to rank well in search, be thinking about ways that you can validate these things. And there's a lot there, and I'm not going to unpack it for you today. Happy to continue that discussion again in the Demand Gen Jammers community. But one thing I thought I would highlight, because this is a simple, easy win for everybody, is go build author pages on your website. So if we're wanting to show that we have experience and expertise, you don't want the byline of your blogs to say admin. So many B2B marketers or companies, that's what if you go read their blogs and look at the byline, it says admin. What you want to do is have well-known subject matter experts in your company. Like, for example, I write a lot of our blogs, but I'm also very active in social media. And so, I'm known for things, right? And then we have an author page on our website so that when I author a blog, there's a byline on the blog that links to an author page. These are the types of things that Google is looking for that will really help us stand out over the AI spewed content that's going to be out there. And so that was just one area that I want to highlight as it relates to SEO in 24. Okay, let's move on to establish authority. I just looked and see that we got about 10 minutes left, and so I've got just a few slides to get through here with you guys. Establishing authority is just really what can we do to give our clients and customers confidence that we can solve their problem for them. And there's, four things that I wanted to touch on. One is we want to turn our website into a buyer enablement tool. And I've got a great that UX checklist. So go check that out. It'll help you figure out how to improve your messaging, remove friction, etc. We need to win the mid funnel. And I've talked about winning the mid funnel a couple of different ways. The way that we can win the mid funnel in establishing authority is by creating interactive tools that really help the buyer make good decisions. One of the things I'm a big fan of is, can you take the demos that your sales reps are giving or the sales pitches, those discovery pitches or whatever that they're giving to new prospects? Is there a way to take that information and convert that into a guide or convert that into a video, something that your customers or prospects could consume before they reach out to sales? And there's a lot behind that too, but the idea is try to ungate every possible useful information that you've got. And even your sales reps pitching customers is a little bit of a gate. So what are things that are in that pitch that are great, but could also be on your website in some kind of a tool or a guide or checklist or something that might be helpful to the buyer? Building content hubs is number 3, and then number 4 is building community, and I've got some slides on those. So content hubs are great from an SEO perspective, but they're huge in helping you establish authority and giving your customers confidence that you can help them. There's really simple ways to set up content hubs. I think I don't see enough B2Bs doing content hubs, and I think one of the reasons for that is that they think it's complicated. If you've got a WordPress website, you can easily manage content hubs by just having some smart categorization going on inside of your website. For example, this is our AI for marketing content hub. And the way all these resources get in there and blogs and all that is simply that we just put them in the category AI for marketing. And so super easy to do. And it's a great way of combining all that multimedia content together. That's another challenge companies struggle with is they're organizing their website based on media types. So here's my videos, here's my blogs, here's my resources. When you build a content hub, you want one place for everything under a particular topic to live. And so that's what we'd recommend there. And then make sure that you've got good attribution in place so that as people are consuming these different resources or going to your content hub, that you're actually throwing off a signal that you can use for SDR follow-up or to trigger marketing campaigns and things like that. Okay, community is a big one, and I can't tell you that we've figured it out because we're definitely working hard on making our community even better. But I love community for establishing authority because it's a sales-free zone, and it's all focused on engaging with your buyer and building relationships with your buyer so that you can learn things about them and learn challenges that they're having, and then package up answers to those challenges and give them back to them. I mean, that's exactly how a huge part of how we feed these demand gen jam sessions is we hear from you guys what are things you need help with, and then we build content that answer those questions for you. A big part of having a good community, we feel like there's four components to it. One is a group. That's why we have the Demand Gen Jammers group on LinkedIn. Then we have one-on-one sessions as well as group sessions. So there's, to build a relationship, you need to spend some one-on-one time with your audience or group time with your audience or your community rather. Then you need to encourage the peers within the community to connect together. That's when the real value happens. And to be honest with you, we haven't cracked the code on that. I would love all of you guys that are part of our Demand Gen Jammers community to figure out a way to get connected and get sticky with one another without Vendy Digital being in the room, so to speak. And then the last piece is resources. And so this is our playbook. When we're building out the Demand Gen Jammers community, we're thinking about these four things. How do we constantly deliver value in each of these areas? Okay, the last one here, and I got 6 minutes, is nurture relationships. And again, we're talking about digital trends as it relates to our demand gen framework. There's three things here that I wanted to touch on. I do have a couple of slides. One is, rethink your trade show strategy. A lot of our clients or a lot of B2Bs that I talk to are still spending a ton of money on trade show booths and going to trade shows. And I still think going to trade shows, there's great value in that. I just wonder, do you need to have an expensive booth and spend $100,000+ on every trade show, or are there better ways to leverage those events to stay connected with your customers? And so one thing we've been advising our clients to do is pull back on the budget, maybe use that budget in other marketing channels or initiatives, still go to the events, but go and walk the floor and also schedule appointments and take a video camera and videotape prospects and videotape customers, get testimonials, case studies, build content for your content flywheel. I think that would be a better use of your trade show strategy. Number two is coming up with things that you can give your sales reps to go talk to customers about. When we're facing headwinds like we're going to face in 24 potentially, your sales reps are going to be hungry for something new to reach out and touch a customer with. So what can we do to build resources and tools and things that might be new so that they just have a reason to reach out and touch a prospect? And then the last one is rethink email. And so I promise you, we're getting to the end here. This is an example of one of the ways we're thinking about email over at Vendy Digital. And it very much follows this content hub approach where instead of just drip marketing with emails that are the same, that are going to a certain type of buyer, or maybe everybody's getting the same email, what are some things that you can do based on the signals that buyers are sharing with you as they engage with your content that can trigger emails that feel very Hulu-like or Netflix-like? And what I mean by that is, I don't know about you guys, but I get emails from these platforms or channels, and they're monitoring what I'm watching on Hulu or Netflix, and they're sending me emails about, hey, you watch this thing, you might like this thing. And that's pretty easy to do if you've got a good marketing automation system like HubSpot, and you're just thoughtful about it, and figure out, okay, what are some signals that we can use to put people and segment people into lists, and then how can we fire off emails to that segment based on their behavior? And so the key point is, as we're thinking about trends in 24, don't just drip market your audience with the same message. Think about creative ways that you can segment them and give them very useful information that touches them at the right moment in time with the right information. And like I said, it's not that hard to do if you just spend a little bit of time and think about how you can find and monitor those signals and use that to fire off certain emails. Okay. I got a little nervous because I saw that it was I had like 5 minutes to go, and I'm looking at the clock, and we got 3 minutes left. And so I appreciate you guys hanging out for that fire hose. Andrea, before I go, are there any questions that came up from the group or anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, one question we get all the time, Paul, is how do you determine your marketing budget?
Oh man, that's a big one, and I probably should have covered that. I'll tell you what, I'll go do a post in the Demand Gen Jammers community about how to figure out your marketing budget. At a high level, it always comes to the easiest way is to figure out how many new customers you need to generate. This would be a top-down way to look at it, but how many new customers do you need to generate next year? What's your cost per acquisition target? You multiply those two things together, that gives you a budget. You can also do a bottom-up analysis, and for the sake of time, I'll walk you guys through that in the Demand Gen Jammers group. But great question, Andrea. If you're not part of the group, just go to the agenda that we shared earlier. There's a link to get in the group, and we'll get you in. Guys, thank you again for just an awesome 2023. It's been crazy. This has been a crazy year for just about everybody. I think 24 is going to be pretty crazy as well. If I don't talk to you, happy holidays, Merry Christmas to everyone. And be sure to join us in January as we talk about attribution and everything we need to know about that. So you guys take care, and I'll see you next year.